Are you ready? Okay, here we go. We're actually recording right now as I'm saying this. So here we are. Welcome everyone who happens to be tuning in, all three of you. So, and maybe that's actually thinking positively. I don't know if anybody...
I think you'll be surprised.
Will I? Okay, well. Anyway, welcome to episode 1 of the Disturbin the Burbs podcast. I'm your host, Rotten Jimmy. And today, my guest in the studio, which happens to be our dining room, because the actual studio isn't ready yet, so we've kind of got everything out on the dining room table. But with me is my ever so beautiful, lovely, and talented and funny wife, Jennifer.
Hello.
Who is not Jennifer. She is Jen.
They both work.
Okay. Jennifer makes her feel like she's in trouble. So I will try to remember just to call her just Jen tonight. Oh, and anyway, with your lovely big brown eyes staring at me, is it very exciting? Mm-hmm. How excited are you on a scale of 1 to 10?
Would you be upset if I say like a 6?
That's probably setting the expectations correctly for this evening. So anyway, I hope this is the start of something fun and exciting, and many more hours of content to come your way over the following months. The cadence, which I will not promise, I'm hoping to do at least one a week, but it may be one every week and a half or something like that, depending on how I can basically get my shit together and do it,
It's a good goal.
Yeah, it's a good goal. So, part of the podcast is, we like to talk and while we have a buzz. And so, what are you drinking tonight, Jen?
I'm drinking one of your amazing Palomas.
Jen and I are into, would you call them craft cocktails?
Yeah. You perfected this one this summer, and it's quite excellent.
Yeah. So if there's anybody out there that thinks they've got a Paloma recipe that kicks butt, I will throw down here and now and challenge you to a Paloma duel. Because
secret ingredient and all.
Do we want to tell ingredients, or do we kind of want to leave that a mystery?
I don't know. I mean, that one is really good. Which
one's really good?
The one syrup.
Yeah, that one syrup is really good, but it is kind of a secret little ingredient that makes
basically it's like a tequila, or it's like a grapefruit margarita. It's a tequila drink with grapefruit, ruby red, and soda and some other things
with a little extra something in it. Mm-hmm. And where were we? Where I ordered a Paloma. Was it La Palmera?
No, it was downtown.
No, the one that I got most recently that was basically, grapefruit soda. So it was like Sprite not Sprite, but Squirt.
It might have been.
It was like Squirt and tequila, and that's not a Paloma to me.
We had one at Arnie's. We just went to Arnie's recently.
Yeah, and that was actually pretty good.
That was a pretty good one.
That was good.
It still wasn't how we discovered.
If you want a good Paloma and you don't want to come to our house, actually, so go to Edmonds, to Arnie's, kind of old school seafood restaurant, something your grandparents would go to.
It's like Anthony's Homeport.
Except for your grandparents. So I'm not saying it's dated or anything.
I'll watch Dad listen to this.
Well, he is 75 or somewhere around in there, so it's his crowd.
Right.
It's his crowd.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, so you're enjoying your second Paloma of the evening. So if Jennifer slurs her words tonight, now you'll know why. I myself, normally I would have a Paloma with you, but I kind of wanted to mix things up tonight. And so I am drinking one of my other favorite drinks, which is an old-fashioned. And I make a craft old-fashioned. I don't just throw stuff into a glass with a bunch of tiny ice cubes and a maraschino cherry like you can get at Red Lobster. And hopefully they're not going to be a future sponsor of this show. So they go back and, hey, what's the matter with our old fashions? But anyway, I'm drinking. I love bourbon because it's corn based and generally has a little bit of a sweeter taste to it. And so I'm drinking Four Roses small batch bourbon tonight. And I generally put that in a cup with ice with 5 or 6 shakes of orange bitters and 5 or 6 shakes of Angostura aromatic bitters. Yeah. And
fancy.
Yeah. And I shake some of that in there, and then I put a healthy spoonful of, simple syrup, a couple of black cherries. And if
boozy cherries or
they're filthy. I think you've probably seen the filthy cherries out in the grocery stores, in the finer Seattle area grocery stores. And if I'm lucky that I have an actual orange on the premise, I will take an orange peel and either wipe.
That kind of key.
It is kind of key, but tonight I am drinking it sans orange mist. I did not mist the glass. But
that's very ghetto.
Yeah, here I'm going to take a quick moment and have a drink, and I encourage you to drink. And if anybody's listening to this and you are also near a beverage, hey, take a drink with us. Or if you're on your morning commute and you've got a cozy with a nice, lovely beer sitting next to you, take a sip as you're driving. So, or smoke a bowl, whatever you've got to, alter your mind.
Have a chai tea latte.
Have a chai tea latte, yes. So anyway, have we rattled on long enough about what we're drinking? Being that this is episode 1, I kind of wanted to talk about, what is Disturbin the Burbs, because I would guess most of the people that know us may or may not have experienced a Disturbin the Burbs event before, and so I'm going to make the assumption that the majority of people are listening to this don't know what Disturbin the Burbs is.
I mean, maybe half, if at the most.
Maybe at the most.
People we've known longer.
Yeah.
But, there's a lot of people out there that are newer friends that have no idea what Disturbin the Burbs means to us.
And giving you a little brief history, I actually was looking today through a hard drive because I was trying to find the very first, Disturbin the Burbs. That's the drink repeating itself. So a little bit of a hiccup there.
Nice.
So,
Hiccup. Sure.
Yep. We did have cabbage and beef tonight for dinner. I'm not saying, that you might hear other sounds, popping and crackings, taking, place during the podcast, but, anyway. So I actually found 2001 was when we did the first Disturbin the Burbs, and the whole idea behind Disturbin the Burbs is when Jen and I got first married back in 2001. We bought a house smack right after we got married, and it was in unincorporated Snohomish County, way in the boondocks, 20 miles plus north of Seattle. And we were townies for the longest time. We lived, near Green Lake, and we're very much entrenched in the downtown scene.
It's a tough move.
It was a tough move.
To leave the city, basically, and
it
was the only way to get any amount of house.
Right. We did shop around downtown, and we wanted a room to spread our legs, and anything that we could afford was actually pretty small, built before they made big bedrooms. And,
I don't do old tiny bathrooms.
Yeah, no closets. No closets. Yeah, it was
just not me.
So, we ventured a little further out, and a little further out, and a little further out, and lo and behold, we're way out here.
In the suburbs.
Yeah, it's in the suburbs. And we did have a fairly active social life when we were living downtown, and we knew that was going to take a hit when we moved to the burbs. And we wanted to give our friends a reason at least once a year to venture out to the suburbs and party with us. And so we kind of dreamed up this idea of Disturbin the Burbs.
I think that name totally came from your head, though. It was all you.
It very well could have. It just sounded good. There was a little bit of Tom Hanks. You remember the Burbs? You know, I was kind of thinking about that and the way it's hyphenated before the Burbs. And so I thought Disturbin hyphen the Burbs. So anyway, that first Disturbin the Burbs basically was a barbecue. I don't know that it was much else than we played Jenga, Crazy Twister. We had Spody. Yeah, there was like Spody, you know, and if any of you have had Spody before, you know exactly what we're talking about. Yeah. A little bit younger, when the body could handle that kind of liquor. And fruit, of course. So there is a health
soaked fruit. Yes,
there is vitamins included in that. But we had a fun time. It was great. It was encouraging. Had a lot of friends out.
It was basically posted by us and 2 other neighbors. So it was like the 3 houses. And so it was almost a block party, or a street party, because people were just going between all 3 yards.
Yep.
Which was very cool.
Shout out to Jody and Jason.
Isamura.
Yep. Oop, you said their last name. Well, maybe.
Is that bad?
I don't know.
You have to edit that out?
Maybe, I'm not gonna, but you know.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
And then
maybe
Cindy Underwood Ray.
Yeah. Then we used our last name again there too.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Damn it.
We didn't get their signed permission to use their names on, you know, a podcast that's not going to be heard by anybody. But you know,
I'll ask them, and then I'll make you edit it.
Right. If they say no, I doubt they'll say no.
They're more likely to be honored.
Right. Huge honor to be talked about.
It was a cool party.
Yeah, it was a great party. Yeah, I don't know if it was epic, but it was pretty fun.
If it wasn't epic, the following 2 were epic.
Yes, the following, there's actually 3 more after that first one.
I cannot.
I will show you, and I will prove you. That little animated GIF that I sent you earlier today of that guy slapping the woman's butt, that was 2001. That was the first one, and then the next one we had was the karaoke on the porch.
Oh,
yeah. Okay. So that was the next one we did, and it was. We called it Karaoke Madness. I found the poster for that one. Still have the poster of that.
You're going to have to put those up on the website so people can
Sure. That's exactly what I'm going to do.
The history. Yeah.
Sure, the history. Yeah, there'll be a history section on the website. Disturbintheburbs.com. And so that's not disturbing, it's disturbin. No G. Disturbintheburbs.com. So we'll be able to find today's episode, hopefully on Halloween, October 31st, 2019, on the website tomorrow. And then we're going to be on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts and Stitcher and a handful of other podcasts. We want to reach as far as we can. And right now, Jen's just going blah, blah, blah. You can actually speak into the microphone and do that.
Except I was trying to be subtle and say, I don't care.
Yeah, they can actually hear your lips going.
They could not.
Blah, blah, blah.
We're full of it.
So anyway, we had the third Disturbin the Burbs was it was a luau, and it was our first time for getting a band involved,
and that's when surf band.
Yeah, the surf band, the Manatees, and they actually that was really cool, and everybody kind of dressed in luau shirts, and I can't remember exactly what the food was, but I do remember getting drunk. So that seems to be a theme. They did have a theremin, and if any of you know what a theremin is, it's another instrument that is
very Hawaiian.
It's very Hawaiian, but it's loud, and you could literally hear the theremin all the way down the other end of the neighborhood. Yeah. Look it up, YouTube.
I could try to make the sound, but that's not attractive. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah. Okay. I think you should try.
I'm not.
Come on, Jen.
I'm not.
You're not going to try?
Okay. I think they should look it up.
Okay, look it up. YouTube theremin. And then the last year that we had the Disturbin the Burbs in our first house, that was the year we had a piñata, and it was full of wasn't it full of adult themed stuff? Didn't we have booze and?
Oh yeah, I think so.
I don't think it was kid friendly.
You're making the piñata seem like the big thing, but really the big thing was the unavoidable, what you saw first.
Right.
the bouncy house.
Right.
The adult-sized
Yes.
bouncy house.
Yes.
And then there was a piñata.
I got stuck in that thing. I went in there after drinking way too much.
Oh.
And there were kids. This is,
was some
even
kids
though,
there,
this was really kind of, somewhat family. But
it was the biggest bouncy house I've ever seen, and it was big enough for adults to be able to get in
Right.
there and jump around. It was super fun.
And that was kind of the request when I called up I didn't want a little bouncy house. I wanted a big, huge bouncy house that adults could jump around in. And I just remember getting in there and kind of getting caught between the floor of the bouncy house and the netting.
At the corner or at the edge.
Yes. And I couldn't get out. No matter how hard I tried, I was kind of stuck in this little pocket, like a little, yes, poor drunk Jimmy. But it was fun. I finally got out. I think maybe somebody pushed me from behind.
Oh, dear.
And that within itself is kind of a feat. But it was fun. That was a really good time. Mm-hmm. But we moved shortly after that.
The last one, huh?
No. Well, that was the last one at the first house.
I guess I just didn't remember.
Disturbin the Burbs. It was a lot of fun. And we certainly did disturb the burbs. We disturbed the burbs. And if you remember the one when we had the karaoke on the front porch, that was not real popular with the extended neighbors that lived.
We invited them all.
Yeah, we invited them all. But there was one particular neighbor who was not too happy. Do you remember her?
Pam.
Yeah. What was our other name for her?
Evil Pam.
Yeah, it was Evil Pam. Dun, dun, dun. I felt so sorry for her husband.
She was not a happy woman.
She's not a happy woman at all. I don't think they ended up staying together.
Oh.
Which,
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, it's not surprising, but, that's the way it goes sometimes. When you're married to somebody who's inherently evil, as part of their generic... And she was a shrew. I think it was part of her genetic code.
Not suited to living in a suburban neighborhood with close neighbors.
Well, to be honest, neither are we, but here we are, That's where we could get the house we wanted, and we've stayed. And I love it up here. I actually love it up in the burbs north of Seattle.
We have really good neighbors now.
Yeah, we have awesome neighbors. And if you're listening now, you guys are super awesome. And we do a lot of fun things together, fire pits, usually most of it involves some sort of libation. So
it is the suburbs.
Yeah, it is the suburbs. And, there is a limit to what we can do out here on a moment's notice. And most of it really revolves around beer or booze or something. And lots of laughter, live flame, burning of furniture, wooden chairs, torches, and lots of, the summertime is generally pretty fun around here. And when Jen and I moved into our new house back in 2005. Thank you very much.
Newborn
baby. Moved here within months of having said.
I was still on maternity leave. So
Jen was on maternity leave. Moved into the new house.
Crazy.
Didn't know how the neighbors would take us. But, over time, they got used to the shenanigans, and we brought Disturbin the Burbs here, which ended up growing substantially.
It was many years in the making, though. I mean, there was a big hiatus. When was the first one here?
The first one here. So the last one we had was 4 years ago, so that would be 2015, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, 2015. And so there were 3 of them.
13.
Yeah, 2012 or 2013. Yeah, somewhere right around in there. And I know I wanted to do something here, and had a buddy, Eric, that...
So not quite a 10-year hiatus.
Yeah, not quite a 10. But, hey...
I can count.
Yep. And we brought back Disturbin the Burbs, and we called it Porktoberfest that year. And then it kind of grew from there, where we did a couple more Disturbin the Burbs, and they grew. It was a lot of fun once a year. Last one we had, I think there were 8 bands. We had a stage on the end of the driveway. We had the guy from Teatro Zinzani and Triple Door that does the sound for them come out, and he did real pro sound out here. So it was a lot of fun.
To the point where 4 years later, our neighbors are still asking, "Hey, when are you going to do another Disturbin the Burbs?"
Yep.
It was a big deal.
Yeah, it was a big deal, and I've missed doing it. I think we kind of got burned out.
Oh, we did.
Definitely after the last one, and so the desire was gone. But I'm kind of getting that itch again. But then the idea of a podcast kind of came around, and I was thinking, man, if I was going to name a podcast, I'd want to carry on that brand name, because that's kind of what we're still doing out here.
Good.
We're kind of out here still, in suburban wasteland, still, not wanting to settle. And I'm getting a clicking in my, it's gone. Oh. Okay. So I guess that's all part of the podcast, is you get little audio anomalies happening every now and again. And anyway, that's kind of where Disturbin the Burbs podcast was born, was out of that, wanting to expand the brand, do something new and different, and possibly have a rebirth of kind of the block party, the street party that we had in the future. I think 2020 would be awesome. I know there's a lot happening next summer for us.
Yeah.
But I think 2020 to start off, well, I guess we'll see. So I'm not saying for sure that we're going to have Disturbin the Burbs street party in 2020, but there's some promise there,
but no promises.
Jen always has this love-hate of going into Disturbin the Burbs, so
it's stressful, man.
It is a stressful time.
Another time
we can talk about that another time. So really, here we are, episode 1 on the eve of Halloween. I'm hoping to get this actually. Yeah. I actually want to get this launched, hopefully on Halloween. I don't know what that means tonight, but hopefully I'll at least have this episode up on disturbintheburbs.com. I can't guarantee if it'll be up on Spotify or Apple Podcasts and how long that takes to actually get that turned around. But depending on how much editing I have to do tonight, I may just, put it up there.
I mean, I think we're good so far.
Yeah.
No mess ups, right?
No mess ups, not really. I'm totally rambling.
I thought this was going to be short. It's not short.
Not with me talking, no, because I have the gift of gab. So, being that it's, Halloween is tomorrow, we were kind of tossing around the ideas of what we wanted to talk about on episode 1. And I think it's very fitting that we talk about, kind of, phasmophobia, right? And for those of you that don't know what phasmophobia is, there is actually a real scientific fear of ghosts. And I'm not saying that Jen and I are afraid of ghosts or anything like that. We're ghost curious, if anything. And we're ghost, what would you say, accepting, and maybe we don't even believe in ghosts or what they are, but that's kind of what we wanted to actually do tonight, is kind of to deep dive into that just a little bit.
Ghosts or scary movies?
Well, I think scary movies is part of that, but there's also a couple of little, side things that I want to talk about, and that's some of our kind of, supernatural experiences that we've had over the years. I've had one, sans you, and some interesting things growing up. And then together we had kind of a bizarre experience happen to us that I definitely want to talk about. And I'm not here to try to find any answers tonight on why we feel the way we do.
It's just a good Halloween topic.
Yeah, sure, it's a good Halloween topic. So scary movies. I love scary movies. I always grew up watching,
The thing is, when we were growing up, even teenagers, young 20s, whatever, scary movies were handleable, if that's a word.
Right.
And then The Ring came along and changed everything.
I think the Ring, I mean, if we want to go back, I watched all the Nightmare on Elm Streets.
Me too.
I watched Friday the 13th. Candyman, if you remember that.
I didn't ever love them, but we'd have slumber parties and binge watch.
Right.
All the Friday the 13th.
Sure.
So,
before
the term binge watch was around.
little screams, little scares.
I think that The Ring is the first one.
No,
that
it wasn't.
Introduced the stuttering.
Oh, well, that
the technique where it's all of a sudden in your face,
right?
Jump scare,
the jump scare, right?
And that's the end of it for me.
Was that?
I can't handle that.
I actually watched The Ring after the one that did it in for me.
The one that did it in for us?
Yeah, together, that we were watching, and that was White Noise. And I know it's probably silly to think that was the one that did it in for us.
It was.
But it was actually in this house. We watched it Yes, okay. It was in this house, and it's a movie, and I think Michael Keaton. Yeah, Michael Keaton's in that one. And I think he's a scientific researcher or something like that. And he is researching the known phenomenon of white noise and hearing. I don't know what the phenomenon is, but people hear voices through, static.
Onto the static.
Yeah, and radio static. And they believe, I'm even getting goosebumps thinking about this, and that's how weird this is.
It was a super creepy movie.
Yeah, it was a super creepy. And then there were guys that came out of the television screen when he was looking at the static, and it was just kind of turned into this really kind of creepy, weird thing. And then as I was watching that movie, I think I was actually looking up on the internet at the same time. Is this a real phenomenon? Yeah, is this a real phenomenon? And yes, it's well documented. There's all kinds of articles written on it. Paranormal type of thing. Well,
it wasn't like the movie didn't have a bunch of over the top, campy, super fantastic looking ghosts. It all seemed like it could happen. Like it seemed like somewhat realistic, although it was supernatural. It seemed like it could happen to anybody.
Right.
Like if we turned our TV onto the white noise.
Yeah. I actually think if I did that tonight, that
makes
would
it scarier.
Yeah, that would happen.
Because
actually,
you can see it happening in real life, or
right.
happening to you.
Yeah, I barely could go upstairs that night after I, closed the. We
completely stopped watching scary.
Oh yeah, that was it.
That was the end of the road.
Yeah, that did it for me. And then I had my friend Dominic convinced me one night to come over and watch The Ring.
Oh, okay.
And did I say, oh, you've got to see this, or I had to show it to you?
I've seen it, so I don't know.
I think I must have convinced you to watch it, and then that was really kind of the end of it. I haven't watched any of the Saw movies.
Oh, I don't understand. I just don't understand how people can put stuff that horrible in their heads. I don't even know to say stuff that horrible because I've never watched it. I've never seen it. I haven't done any. But I know the basic premise.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to talk about it. It's awful. It's awful.
Mm-hmm. And I've never watched, Night of 1,000 Corpses or whatever it's called, the Rob Zombie movies. And there's, now there's a whole bunch. There's like The Grudge, and there's all this.
I'll watch zombie movies with you.
Yeah. And it's weird because, we're big fans of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Absolutely love that whole series. I would watch it again,
My favorite show in the world? Supernatural.
Yep, the Supernatural. In fact, Jen was watching Supernatural long before I was like, I don't want to get into another one of these kind of shows.
I finally made him, and so I watched it a second time through.
She did, and then I literally binged watch whatever 13 seasons. Mm-hmm. Was it just last summer? Mm-hmm. 2 summers ago? Last summer,
because this is season 15. Their last season.
But I've watched a full season with you.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, and so we're on the last
13.
Yeah, binge watched 13 seasons of that over the summer.
And why are we okay with that versus the scary movies are another level? The whole jump scare thing.
I don't know. Yeah, just the pure evilness. I mean, we watched The Chilling Adventures of the New Sabrina or whatever it's called. It is kind of borderline. There's some pretty dark stuff in that one.
Netflix.
Something like that. Yeah, and so we watched that, and that was actually a pretty fun thing. But it's dark. It's dark. Yeah. I don't know. It's just something about kind of the unknown and the spirits and that sort of thing. And I'm just kind of curious, actually, of where that fear actually comes from.
Because it's scary.
So I kind of think, where it's rooted for me, where we can talk about that, is I was brought up, fundamental Christian. Mm-hmm. And so there's, definitely some beliefs that I had growing up, and the religion that I grew up in, there are no ghosts, and that when you die, you turn to dust and you know nothing. There are no spirits. I think like in Catholicism and other religions, you die and your spirit leaves your body and it goes to wherever it's going to go. Either, it stays on earth because it has unresolved things, or
Would that be a ghost?
Or the spirit goes to wherever, the afterworld, the heaven, or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
The religion that I grew up with is like dust to dust. There is no spirit that's escaping the body. It's just like, no, because they believe in Christ's resurrection. And so, the second coming of Christ, he's going to come and he's going to resurrect all the dead people at the same time, whether they were good or bad. And the belief of that is, that the good people will ascend to heaven, and then there will be a period of, torment of all the evil people on the earth, and the earth is going to get made new and be blah, 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 yada, 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 right? So I didn't grow up with a belief that there's these, souls that are left behind, and trying to figure out unresolved things. My belief system is, and that's what I grew up with. I don't know exactly where I'm at right now, but the belief system I grew up with is if you ever see anything like that, it's actually a demon that's manifesting self in that way. So demon possession of humans is very much a real thing in my religion. If you're seeing spirits or that sort of thing, it's like Satan's angels manifesting themselves in that way. So it's even darker than just
Happy Halloween.
Yeah. So it's actually a little darker than actually just a ghost, of some poor, deceased person with unresolved issues, so it's actually a lot darker than that. So I guess that's kind of where my fear is actually based from, is, kind of from how I was brought up, and when you are so entrenched in a religion like that, it's really kind of hard to shake some of those belief systems. The older you get, and regardless of how close or far you stray from your religion, those kind of beliefs are still kind of stuck with you. And I think, so when I watch something like that, my mind wanders to more evil kind of, things, which is bizarre because, like you said, we do watch stuff like Supernatural,
Because I didn't have any of that upbringing. I didn't have a religious background. I mean, we didn't go to church when I was little, so
yeah.
I don't have any of that, as a background or whatever,
Right.
personal childhood beliefs. But, I don't know. I guess just scary movies are scary movies. And, and ghost stories from other kids. I guess it's just, and I was always an avid reader. So, there's...
Did you read
exposure
scary
to
books?
it. Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I mean, I never really got into like Stephen King or anything, but I read, kid level supernatural stuff, about, those scholastic books about witches and stuff. So I don't know. I guess I don't have that level that you have, but
But what's so
scary?
Yeah, but so if you don't necessarily have that belief system in you, what is it about something like White Noise that scared you so much, and you said, "Oh, no more of this"? Because I find that interesting, because if you haven't been brought up a Christian, and you don't have the good or evil, and you don't believe in an afterlife or a heaven or a hell or anything like that,
It's not necessarily black and white like that. I mean, there's always the unknown,
right?
So
Yeah,
there's always everything that's what's possible, and you just don't know,
right?
And of course, growing up seeing all of this on TV and reading in books, and I've got a pretty healthy imagination, so
Right.
Scary.
Scary.
So I may not have the extra church level of it, but
Right.
it's still have lifelong exposure.
Yeah. So I want to switch gears here a little bit and kind of just do a short little dive into where some of this fear may be based. And I know it probably stretches way back into when I was a little kid.
Okay.
And, some of those things, some of the experiences I had when I was a little kid certainly have stuck with me and affected me my entire life, even though, it certainly doesn't run who I am or determine who I am now, but it's certainly things that I think about. And probably right around when I was in first grade, I think my family was camping or we were on vacation or doing something, it was usually either over to the Oregon coast or camping. And my folks actually rode motorcycles at that time.
You've told me that,
Yeah.
and I know I've heard all about your coast trips, although
Yeah.
I can't quite picture you guys camping, but
Yeah, no, we were big campers and always had the motorcycles in tow. Can you imagine my mom riding a motorcycle?
I've tried to picture it because I know you've talked about it a lot.
Yeah.
And it's very cool.
Yeah, she was big into that. Anyway, we lived in a tiny little suburb of Eugene, Oregon, called Monroe, and we lived in an older house out there. And while we were gone, the house was broken into, and I mean that's
Happens.
Yeah, that happens, and that's bad enough on its own. But what had happened is the person that broke into our house broke in through my bedroom window.
That's right.
And there were footprints on the wall, muddy footprints into my bedroom.
Creepy.
Yeah, that's kind of creepy. And so my imagination that time, I had a very overactive imagination. I actually still do, but anybody that knows me, I have a pretty healthy imagination. And so that always affected me, especially when I went to sleep at night. For a long time, I couldn't sleep in my bedroom.
Yeah.
I was always fearful that somebody was going to break into my bedroom window. And that fear actually carried with me, probably into high school, where it was always something that I was just super wary of, was my bedroom window, regardless of what house we lived in. We moved out of that house. Yeah, it was post-traumatic stress disorder, if you want to call it that. But it was something that affected me from a fear-based thing. And it was creepy, the footprints. And what was funny is those footprints stay up there and nobody even bothered to wash them off or anything. So
nice.
those footprints were on the house for quite a while. And anytime I was playing outside and happened to walk by my bedroom window from the outside, I always saw those footprints. So it was a constant reminder of, somebody breaking into my...
Might as well have been red rum.
Right, red rum painted on just below my bedroom window.
And just picture your little eyes like going right to the footprints on the wall, and the scary music begins.
Right. That's cue the scary
I'm
music.
sorry, honey.
Yeah. Well, it is what it is. Boo hoo me. And then I, and this might be a phenomenon too, but multiple times when I was sleeping as I was growing up, and it stretched into my adult life, I would have these very vivid dreams where I would swear that somebody was talking to me and like saying stuff, and the voice was as real could be. And I have never done any research on this or not to see if anybody ever has these.
I bet lots of people have dreams like that.
Yeah, I used to call them talking dreams in my mind.
Okay.
And that's how I explained it to my parents. And I would, wake up kind of yelling. My parents, they were good parents. They would come in and find out what was going on. And I was visibly shaken. And I always said I had these talking dreams in my mind because it really felt like somebody was talking to me while I was sleeping. So, woo-hoo.
Let's talk about scary dreams another time. 'Cause
Yeah.
I had a recurring scary dream of a very different type.
Yeah, I had a recurring scary dream too, and we should definitely dive into that topic at some point. And then fast forward many years. I've got one experience, and then we're going to talk about the experience you and I had together. Okay. But I was this was post college. It was after I'd actually moved up to Seattle the first time, and it kicked my butt. And I moved back to Walla Walla, where I grew up. Had a basement apartment over there, and it was interesting though. The landlord and his wife that they lived upstairs, and I lived in the kind of a daylight basement apartment.
This was back in Walla Walla. Right?
Yeah, it's actually in College Place, and this was just like a few blocks from my buddy Crandall's house, and on Tremont.
Crandall.
Yeah, and so while I was living in that particular basement apartment, it was interesting because the lady that lived upstairs was very much into spiritualism and reading tarot cards, and had that in their background, and I actually had her read my tarot cards one time. It was really kind of interesting, very taboo for the religion that I grew up in, but I was curious, and so she went ahead and read my tarot cards, and with the caveat that she wouldn't tell me any of the bad stuff. It was only the good stuff. But it was amazing at that time because the tarot cards that she read, it was exactly what was happening in my life at the time.
Cool.
Right? It was really interesting. Kind of a little, do.
Right.
But nonetheless, it was just, yeah. It was definitely interesting. But while I was living in that basement, and I don't know if it had anything to do with her or not, and just kind of that belief in spiritualism and the afterlife and everything that was going along with her, I can remember being in my bedroom and my bedroom door slowly opening at night multiple times. This happened multiple times, right? Like,
that sucks.
Yeah. And I was just like, oh, maybe it's a drafty basement, know.
Right.
But it happened frequently, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
it's not acceptable.
Yeah. And then one night in particular, and I don't know if this was alcohol induced or not, because when I was living in that apartment, I was drinking a lot. And often found myself, stumbling in drunk late at night.
The 20s.
Yep. The 20s. And I just remember I had a single bed at that time.
Oh, yuck.
Yeah. I didn't have any money.
Yeah.
Might have been my childhood bed. I don't know.
Gosh.
Probably not. But, I remember that particular bed, I didn't have a frame for it. It was just mattresses, box spring and top mattress on the floor. And I can remember being half asleep, half awake, and completely, and if you ask me to this day, I will swear up and down that I was levitating over the floor of the bedroom away from my bed. That's what I truly felt in my head. And it was a sensation. It was a really unique sensation that I was feeling. And
maybe you had a fever.
I had a fever, and it was more cowbell. Sorry, I went there.
I'm sorry.
So
that's pretty weird. Huh?
Yeah, it was pretty weird. And, I went immediately back to my religious roots, and I was just like, dear Jesus, dear Jesus, dear Jesus, dear Jesus. I mean, I was very, very fearful of what was happening.
But you were not awake? You were awake?
I felt like I was awake. I would swear to you that I was awake, and I was on my stomach. And so I felt that I had floated over the floor, and I couldn't bring myself to open up my eyes. And I was just like, if I just do it, I've got to force myself to do it. And I was kind of pseudo praying, but I was, calling out Jesus's name. At least in my head, I was thinking, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. And as soon as I was able to force myself and my eyes open, zoop, I could literally feel myself being right like on top of the bed again.
This is a super vivid memory.
Very vivid. I mean, I'm having this conversation with you right now that's the way I felt.
Right.
And I'm still getting goosebumps even thinking about it right now. And maybe it was all in my head, but I would swear to you at that time that literally had happened to me. So there's that one experience that I've had that plays into, kind of the fears and the supernatural and everything of what we're talking about tonight. Mm-hmm. But then there was another experience after what?
And before the one that you and I had together, talking about me.
Oh, yes. Let's talk about you.
Well,
I've been doing all the time.
It's going to be very
I've been doing all the talking.
Because I swear I can think of nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about suburbia. Mm-hmm. I grew up in Woodinville.
Yeah.
I mean, we lived in Seattle until I was 4, and then we moved out to a new house in Woodinville. Mm-hmm. And that's where I grew up.
Right.
It's the house my mom sold before she moved.
Nothing spooky in the basement?
No basement. No basement.
Well, yeah, you guys had it was a split level, so there was the downstairs.
That's what Mom's daycare was, a daylight basement.
So the piano that was down there didn't magically play in the middle of the night? No, there wasn't little.
I mean, my grandparents in Seattle had a basement.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a pretty cool place.
Yeah, the basement was cool?
Yeah, it was. It was definitely spooky worthy. Mm-hmm. And that's where the piano was. Mm-hmm.
The same piano that you and I have?
Thinking of that basement, the only memories I have are of my grandma doing a scavenger hunt for me one summer. Yeah. Whenever I would come over to the house, she'd have another clue for me.
Right.
And, that sometimes involved going through like the stack of National Geographic magazines in the basement and stuff like that.
Looking for nude.
She was pretty awesome.
Nude native women.
Come on, this is Grandma. This is Grandma Graham.
Well, it was the National Geographic. That's what I looked for. She went to a lot of trouble.
I asked her to do this. I totally remember this. I asked her to do this, and she went to the trouble of, sorry, we're totally off topic here.
Yeah, but that's all right.
She, soaked paper in coffee so that it would look old. And that was one of my clues.
Oh yeah, like old parchment paper.
So anyway, only good memories of that basement. Nothing spooky. I mean, you're asking me to think of spooky memories or anything that happened to me. I got nothing.
Yeah.
So
very.
I am sorry, but
very white bread suburban upbringing.
Having said that, I was totally spooked out by what happened to us.
Yeah. Yeah, and when was that? I mean, we weren't married at that point, were we?
Think so.
Were we just dating?
Our first visit to Edgefield.
Yeah, living in sin, sleeping together.
Dude.
And taking trips.
Although,
did we sleep in the same bed or did we get separate bedrooms?
Nice, dear. Good Lord. That was the first trip we took there, and it was just us. We weren't going with neighbors or anything.
Oh no, that was long. That was before. Yeah, it was before neighbors, and I don't know.
We were probably engaged.
I think I had been there once before, potentially. I mean, because I knew about the Edgefield, and I might have been at least once before, but I'm having very vague, foggy memories.
The first time together,
we very well could have. It could have been just us. And if you've ever, I don't know if people have ever heard of the Edgefield Winery, but it's pretty fantastic.
McMenamin's brothers.
Yes.
Anyone from the Northwest probably knows about their different properties.
Right.
They can look them up.
Yeah, they can look them up. And poor farm.
They like taking old properties.
Old properties. A lot of high schools. There's one in Bothell, the Lincoln School. Is that what it is? Anderson School. And this is a property in Troutdale, Washington. And
Oregon.
Did I say Washington? Oregon. Troutdale, Oregon. You can fact check me later. And it's what it was a poor farm. And that was where people that were down on their luck, they could actually go work out there, earn some money, and, rehabilitate themselves to get back on their feet. A lot of people died out there. There's a lot of great ghost stories. In fact, if you go to the front counter when you check in, there's an actual separate book of paranormal activity that guests have had within that building. And it's kind of the accommodations are kind of hostel style, right? Is that the right word?
There are private rooms with their own bathrooms.
Right.
There are also all the hallway rooms with one bathroom and shower for men, bathroom shower for women at the end of the hall.
Right.
So
yeah, it's a really cool place. Love it.
And you forgot, after it was a poor farm, it was a retirement home.
Yeah, retirement home.
Lots of old people.
Old people. They actually, back in the day, which was a Wednesday, by the way, back in the day, Troutdale was actually considered, quite a hoof from Portland.
Sure.
And they didn't have a local mortician, and so there is an actual what they call the Ice House still exists now. I think they've got a little pottery place out there, but that is where when anybody died, they were put in the ice house until the mortician could come out and they could haul the bodies away. So supposedly there is
one of the haunted spots.
Yeah, there's a lot of activity. If you had your whatever that little machine is, like from Ghostbusters, it would just go haywire in that place.
Well, this is an estate too, so there's the big main lodge building or whatever,
right?
And then there's all sorts of outbuildings.
Yep.
There's a mansion here. There's that ice house. There's a little red shed.
Yeah, and
there's a bar now.
Yes, they've turned every little opportunity into a bar, so you just kind of stumble from one place to another, which we have done on multiple occasions with multiple friends. Yes, it's fun. It's like we call it Disneyland for adults, and they make the best scratch margaritas. In fact, going there and staying just for the scratch margaritas is enough, but it is so very popular and they have concerts out there now at the Edgefield.
3-hole putt-putt
golf, and it's super hard to get
Movie
reservations.
theater.
Second run movie theater, great restaurants.
Yeah.
So it's a very, very neat place.
Glass-blowing studio.
So yeah, and so I wanted to impress my lady early on in the relationship. Thought this would be a great place to go have a weekend getaway, and instead of getting one of the hostel type style rooms, we decided to get an in-suite, bathroom, clawfoot bathtub, and a bed and whatnot. And had a fantastic evening. Where things got a little weird was in the middle of the night, and I don't know what time it was. It was still dark out. It was asleep. But I swear that you leaned over to me and whispered in my ear, Jim, and you...
It just came out the next morning.
Didn't you think that
I swore you were trying to talk? What? Are you talking to me?
Yeah.
And
we weren't talking to each other at all.
Right.
And what was even stranger then is we both kind of sat up and were like, what was that? Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you remember or not, but the little brass knobs on the dresser started rattling after that incident. And I think, thank God, we'd had a fair bit to drink that night because
the next morning we talked about it all and we were really weirded out about it.
Yeah, very creeped out about it. But it was of the mind just to actually kind of lay back down and go to sleep and ignore.
We totally did. We absolutely fell back asleep.
Ignore what just happened. Okay. And but even now, just talking about it kind of,
I remember.
Gets the hairs standing on the back of my neck. And we've actually been there multiple times with lots of friends, have tried to duplicate the experience again and again and again, and have never been able to duplicate those experiences.
Because if something did happen, it was just the right amount of creepy where it wasn't like scarred for life, post-traumatic stress kind of level paranormal event. It was just a little bit of spookiness.
Right, a little bit of spookiness.
But I swear it happened.
Right. Yeah.
That was my one and only.
Your one and only. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I kind of think that wraps up our Halloween episode.
It's good.
It's a good place to stop. I think we've had a good episode 1. Don't you?
I'm proud of you.
Oh, I'm proud of you. Honest. Yeah. Thanks for sharing the last 45, 50 minutes with me. And unbeknownst to people, we started and stopped a couple of times, and hopefully I'm going to splice this together so they don't know. But it was a lot of fun. We had a beverage, we had some laughs, and hopefully for those that are listening, we entertained you a little bit. And yeah. And so until next time, we'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye-bye.